Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Escaping Nightmares. Today, we're going to be doing a story off Bree's artwork, and she's going to show you a little bit of what the story is based on.
It actually looks really good on camera, which I was kind of worried because it's so tiny. Or like the sculpt is so tiny. I didn't think it looked very good, but oh, there you go.
So cute. I really love. I don't know. I love the way you did the knife in the eye and the blood coming
Oh,
down.
thanks.
So cool looking.
Yeah. So that's him. That's what our story is about. It's that guy.
So I will jump right in. So this is the story I wrote, but I also had the help of my younger sister Danelle too. I wanted to give a little shout out to her because she helped with the story as well. All right, so it's called The Explorer. Liam Octavian was an extreme explorer. At a young age, he was always curious about the world. As he grew, his curiosity of the world grew with him. He got his first taste of the salty sea and the wind against his face when he was 8 years old. After that, he was hooked. Now, as an adult, he sails past rocky mountains, blanketed with huge trees, through landscapes he used to only dream of. On one of his voyages through the uncharted waters, he caught a glimpse of a flickering light far off in the distance. As he got closer, he realized he was seeing a reflection on this small island. Not documented anywhere on his maps, he circled back and got a little closer to shore, where he saw old, shattered pieces of a ship, a rusted bell, and what once was an old dock to the shore. He decided to follow the mystery and started searching the island more. As he made his way onto shore, he realized the island was overtaken by trees and bush. The only sign of life was birds chirping and circling the sky, calling out to one another. He could tell no one had set foot here for years. While he looked around, he found a message in a bottle, as though someone was trying to desperately signal for help. But their words never found their way through the incoming tides. Liam found a total of 3 letters that day. Here's what the first one said: I am Benjamin Montgomery, first mate to Captain Philip Jones on the ship Poseidon. I've been here now for 14 days, and the food is running out. The rest of my crew is dead. The fog was thick on our voyage, thicker still as we came closer to shore. The ship hit sharp, jagged rocks that rose out of the water like ghosts. Poseidon collapsed and was crashed in the humongous waves as I washed ashore in the chaos, hardly conscious but still breathing. When I fully awoke, I saw this strange man in the distance. I've seen him from time to time, but he won't let me get close enough. He doesn't seem to hear me when I call out to him. There's something not quite right about him. He walks with a limp, but moves quite fast, faster than he should. As Liam went deeper into the woods, he came upon the skeleton of a creature he could not name. Not quite human, but nothing like he had seen. The hands had long fingers gripped tightly around another letter. It's night 20. That strange man came around again, but this time was different. He was out of it, still limping but jerking back and forth violently. As he came closer, I see foam red tinted saliva leaking from the corners of his mouth as he snarled at me. It was like he went rabid. He suddenly came running at me, down on all four. I only had my knife, and I stabbed him in the eye as he grabbed me. Even still, he bit me hard on my arm before running back into the woods, screeching. I must have passed out because the next thing I remember was the morning sun beating on my face. With shaking hands, Liam found a small slip of paper, crisped with spots of dry blood tucked down by the long, rotted, twisting legs of the skeleton. Liam could hardly hold the paper still as he discovered the last thoughts of this poor sailor. My body's changing and I don't feel good. My hands started to curl in pain. It feels like my bones are moments from bursting through my skin. I could feel my spine twisting and growing, begging to free itself from my back. I don't think help is coming. And the man, the beast, is watching me again. His eyes are so wide. And where I stabbed him, I know I stabbed him. It doesn't seem to have affected his ability to walk at all. He's coming. He's coming. Absolutely terrified that what he had just read. Liam gathered up as much resources as he could, loaded up his ship, and he pulled up the anchor and hurried home. When he got home, he shared the story with the authorities, and what they told him would linger with him for years. That they stated that there's a legend that most town folks are too scared to talk about. The island was known to inhabit creatures not from this earth, werewolves of sort. They looked like you and I, but when the sky is clear and the moon is bright, they change and hunt down anyone that steps upon the island. Liam was not the first to discover the shipwreck. Rescue had come for first mate Benjamin, but when they saw his changing body, they left him in the wreck as it was, knowing it was too late to save him and hoping that the harsh weather and tides would wipe away everything. That was The Explorer, and that was the story that I wrote.
Very nice. No, it's always so funny how different our vision is for these things. It's cool. In a good way. Not in a bad way, in a cool way.
Oh yeah, no, it is, and it's that's one of the things that I absolutely why I love writing. I love writing for your artwork because, like, I feel like you kind of cracked me out of that shell too. Because I've always written ever since I was young. I've always written stories and like had a good imagination, but then I just kind of like I lost it in the last couple years. So when you were like, okay, like what would you think about this artwork, and I could just see it playing out in my head on how I feel like it looks, and it's that's what I like about it. It's just like it, and then talking about it because it's your vision is always slightly different than mine.
Mine's way different. Way different.
I
But that's a cool thing though.
it is well, and that's what I liked about because even when I wrote this, I basically just had the rough draft and I just had the letters kind of formatted straight down. So him being left, like help actually finding him and leaving him, that was all like Danelle. Danelle actually put that was her twit. That's so funny. So it's like you had your artwork. Literally, you had like three people's different vision in it. Yours, mine, and Danelle's. Because Danelle was reading it, and I showed her the picture of your artwork, and she was like, "Okay." And then that's when she told me she was like, "So I hope you're not upset." I added some twist in there too. She's like, I got really into the story, and I started to think of some ideas, and I'm like, yeah,
That's cool.
that's it is. I was like, that's really cool art, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's cool that you and Danelle were excited about the artwork and then excited about like your story because that's art too. So it's like
It
art creating
is.
art, which is cool. Um,
It is.
but yeah, I actually had a dream about this guy. So my story is like based, it's like a edited version of like a dream I had about it because I was thinking about I think I told you I read a book called so I read this book called Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, which I should have known that that was the author because I love her. And in that book, it's about a witch who um, she creates a dog out of bones to like help her on her quest. But she has good intentions. So my thought was, I want to make something that has bad intentions. So my dog looks all fucked up. Like hers was a skeleton, but she like used magic to make it look like a regular dog to people. That way they wouldn't freak out. Where mine's like a rotted, nasty, like evil dog. Like he wasn't created with good intentions. Because I thought that would be cool too. Because I loved that idea in that book. Because that book was very like kind of fantasy and kind of a little bit of horror, a little bit, um, but she had like good intentions. I want a witch with bad intentions. So my dog was created in with bad intentions in mind.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is funny. That is literally like a completely two different takes on it.
Yeah, because you saw werewolf and mine's like he is
Yeah.
kind of like a mutated. He's not like a dog. He kind of
Mm-mm.
mutated because he has like so many evil intentions within him that he became kind of like a dead, rotten werewolf essentially, but he is made of like dog parts. I know because the story I wrote for my dog doesn't take place when he was made. It takes place more modern times where he was made like back when there were witches, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I
No. No.
wanted to like
No.
backtrack because like I have my witch right there. So she is supposed to be the witch that made this dog. So I have a story for her and when she creates it, and then this dog kind of uh, gets trapped for like centuries and then gets re-released by accident and then continues on his mission for his witch.
So
So I don't know if you want me to read it or not. I'm obviously not an author, and I have a totally different writing style than you.
Oh no, honestly, like even if like if you wanted to read it, you could totally read it on this one. That I think that would be really cool because now since I have the idea, I think it'd be really cool maybe to even if we had yours and mine, if we actually just put them both together.
Okay. And then, yeah, I figured maybe if we wanted, you could write a story about the witch, and then I could tell her story, kind of like go backwards, and then everybody has to like watch this video.
Yeah, but see, but that's cool because see right there, we made a sequel. We made
Yeah, it'd be like,
we
okay, if
made
you
our
don't
own
understand
second.
what's going on, you have to watch the other video.
Yeah, the link is down below. Watch that one. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to watch that one first because we're going backwards like Star Wars.
Exactly.
All right, I'm gonna try and speed read this. Okay, so this is about this is like in modern times. So this isn't about his creation. This is about current times. So his creation is going to be a different story. All the horror in my life started when I looked up into the night sky one summer night. I was young and we were sitting in the backyard in an attempt to escape the stuffiness of our home. As I cast my eyes up into the sky, I witnessed a strange ship making fast loops high in the sky. I was confused by its patterns as I had never seen a plane make these movements like this one was making. And if I'm being honest, it looked like a space shuttle. I was in awe and it took me a long time to tell my dad what I was seeing. By the time I opened my mouth and he looked up from his book, the strange ship was gone. My dad didn't believe me. I'm not sure if the shuttle I saw that night had anything to do with transpired after that night or not. Maybe it just opened my eyes to weird things beyond our understanding, but I began to hear weird noises in our house not too long after this incident. They happened early in the morning, before the sun came up, before my dad's alarm went off for work, or before I had to go to school. These noises were more noticeable on weekends. My dad worked long hours during the week and slept in late on Saturdays and Sundays. I would play quietly in my room until he got up, or as quietly as I could. Being a kid, my idea of quiet was sometimes not what he had in mind. Saturday morning, and I was in my room playing against the Mario Kart AIs. I had my TV turned down low when I heard the floorboards creak. I shouted, "Dad, can we have cinnamon rolls?" But I got no response. A few minutes later, my dad opened my door with sleep still in his eyes, his hair a mess. "Hey," he said, "I thought we had an agreement that you would let me sleep in for a little bit before we got our weekend started. It's early, and you're in here screaming about cinnamon rolls?" "Oh, sorry, Dad. I thought I heard you outside my door. I thought you were already awake." He said, "No, kid, I wasn't, but I am now." And that day went along as normal. A few days later, it was my dad who woke me up. It was still dark outside and I was fast asleep, so I can only speculate how early it was. He came into my room in a huff, turned on the light, and stood there, looking a little confused as he asked me, "Were you walking around out here?" I rubbed my eyes. "No, Dad, I was asleep." "Oh, okay. Well, never mind," he said. I started to come to the realization over the next few weeks that I was hearing unexplainable noises fairly often, early in the morning and sometimes late at night, either chalking them up to normal house settling noises or just ignoring it altogether in favor of another round of whatever game I was playing. The noises started to intrigue me. Over the coming days, I paid more attention to them. The noises sounded like they had weight behind them, like something was tiptoeing around our second story where my bedroom was. I would mute my already quiet TV and listen. I realized how creepy the creaking was, and that my room was only lit by the glow of my TV until the sun came up. The creaking was unsettling, but my closed door provided a barrier of protection. As I made my observations, I came to another realization that the sounds were originating from the spare bedroom next to mine. The room next to me was always unoccupied, but it had a large bed and a piano that my father knew how to play, but never seemed to touch anymore. My dad said the room was for guests, but we never had anyone over. And when I had sleepovers, my friends stayed in my room. It was just something I accepted and didn't really question. We didn't use the room, and it seemed to just disappear from my memory. The door was always slightly ajar. I began to get up a little earlier and made a habit of pressing my ear against the wall that I shared with the spare bedroom. The head of the bed in that room was pressed up against the shared wall. Sometimes I'd hear nothing. Sometimes I'd hear the mattress groan, the floorboards creak, a pop, a groan, and other noises. One like a grinding sound, another like a tree cracking in a silent forest. It was frightening, but also kind of exciting. I started to get brave. I pressed my ear against the wall, and if I heard nothing coming from the spare bedroom, I'd press my ear against my door. Usually, that's where the noises were coming from. I would just sit and listen, trying to figure out what I was hearing. But one morning, I finally rose before it did. It was silent against my wall and silent against my door. So I slowly twisted the door handle and nudged my door open. Just a little bit, just enough to get a peek. And if something scary was out there, I could shut my door quickly and I would be safe. Kid logic told me that my door was an unbreakable barrier that could keep any frightening beast at bay. I waited at my door for what seemed like eons. With my door open, I could hear a little more of the sounds. I heard the mattress groan, the floor creak, shuffling, the popping of old joints, and annoyed, deep huffing. I waited. The door to the spare bedroom began to squeak open, and I realized that this was crazy. Maybe it was a guest staying in that room that I didn't know about, a burglar that had broken in, a homeless person squatting in our house. I had no idea. I got scared. I leaped into my bed and hid under the covers. I heard nails tap on my door, and then my door clicked shut. After breakfast, I went to the spare room. There was one thing I knew for sure, and that was there was never anything weird after the sun rises. Plus, my dad was awake and right downstairs watching TV. The room was normal and unassuming in the sunlight. Just a bed, an old piano, and an ugly carpet. I took a deep breath and opened the closet. Just some old boxes and extra blankets. I turned inside. I have to look under the bed. I lifted up the comforter that hung over the sides, and after a minute of hyping myself up, I looked. Nothing. I stood, my heartbeat still racing, and I let out a breath of air. My eyes downcast at a large unused bed. It had a large divot in it, like someone was sleeping there, but they were invisible. I reached down and touched it. The comforter was cool. I pulled it off with no resistance. Oh, there was no invisible man, but there was still a space on the mattress where it looked like there was weight on the bed. I reached out again, feeling the mattress, expecting to feel something unseen. My hand met no resistance as I touched the mattress, but it felt warm. I was utterly confused by this. Could an animal or person be sleeping in the bed and running off at sunrise? How is it, whatever it is, getting in and out of the house? It's not leaving anything behind. No hair from an animal, no snoring noises of a human. I left the spare room that afternoon more confused. I continued to listen and observe until one day I made the mistake of telling my friends about what I'd been up to early in the morning. They convinced me to have a sleepover to solve the mystery.
You know, I was gonna say, I'm like, yeah, I love that because that's something I would still do to this day. Hear like some creepy noise, I'm like, ooh, let's go. I'm going. I'm like, I got the snacks. Where are we doing this? I love that. It's such a little kid response too.
Yeah, because I was trying to write it from a perspective of a little kid. So I was like trying to remember my childhood, and I'm like, okay, this is what I would do. I would think I was being brave and cool, but then I'd chicken
Yeah,
out. It's like he hides under the bed like a little kid would do, you know. So,
yeah.
um, I was boldened by my best friends by my side. We were jacked up on candy, soda, and popcorn and feeding off of each other's energy. The plan was to pull an all-nighter and listen for the thing in the spare room. We schemed in my room about how to catch the animal or ghost or beast, whatever it was. The only weapon I had was a discarded baseball bat from Little League. One of my friends had a jump rope that they thought could be used to tie the monster up. The other, a water pistol they filled with stolen holy water from their church. We weren't a religious household, but wouldn't stealing holy water counteract whatever holy power it was supposed to have? My friend was convinced I had a demon in my house and holy water would send it back to hell. I thought of it as more of an animal, and that getting sprayed with water would probably really piss it off. Whatever this thing was, we were all convinced we were going to catch it. I just want to reiterate, we were really dumb kids. It was 2:25 a.m. when we started to get bored and tired. We decided to sneak attack and take the enemy by surprise. I went in first to do reconnaissance. The other two stayed behind in my room with the door cracked. I shuffled out of the room and army crawled across the gritty carpet to the spare room. The sound of the door opening against the rough synthetic fibers of the carpet was akin to a belt sander in that silent room. I cringed, trying not to alert whatever was inside. I stayed silent for a moment, hoping I didn't wake the thing. With my bat in hand, I slowly rose to look at the top of the bed. I wanted my friends to think I was brave and that I was cool, that I would willingly go into a dark room against some unknown enemy, but in that moment, I was terrified. I wasn't relieved to find emptiness on top of that bed because now, full of adrenaline and fear, I could hear something breathing softly underneath it. I was frozen momentarily, a deer in the headlights. A thousand thoughts, a thousand scenarios, a million monsters ran through my head as I was frozen there for what probably was only a second. I dropped down on all fours, baseball bat clutched in my hand on the floor, staring at the comforter that hung over the side of the bed, obscuring my view from whatever was lurking in the darkness under there. A monster under the bed, I thought. Only babies believe in that. The soft breathing I could hear in the darkness begged to differ. I lifted the plush comforter and peered under the bed. At first, I saw nothing. The floor under the bed was completely void of anything, but something caught my eye. A small twitch of something moving up inside the mattress. My mind scrambled to make sense of what my eyes were seeing. A strange configuration of body parts twisted inside the mattress, clinging to it like a bat on a cave wall. The thing had some hair on it, but it looked more like a skeleton. The fur was patchy, dirty, and looked like it was rotten in some spots. For a second time, I was frozen in fear as the beast started to adjust itself, the spring of the mattress screeching and groaning under the shifting weight. My eyes wide, the mattress groaning, and this thing turned its head and realized it was being watched. The head I saw looking back at me was more like a dog and a werewolf. The eyes deep dark sockets. We may have both been frozen for a second, but the beast moved faster. It started to remove itself from inside of the mattress. One long, bony leg unfolded from under the bed, then an arm. The thing was insanely large. How did this monster fold itself up in there? My mind asking stupid questions when I should scream or at least try and get away. My flight response finally kicked in when the beast's chest began to lower itself to the carpet. I finally screamed and stumbled to my feet, only to immediately fall on my ass as the thing's other legs began to unfold from its hiding spot. I got the impression it was ancient. I could hear its bones grinding together as it moved. I could hear what was left of its joints popping and creaking like it was made of brittle wood. My friend's wide eyes were barely visible beyond the crack in my door. The only light beside the moonlight coming in through the windows were the beams of their flashlights. They saw my fear and beckoned me, shouting at me to come back inside, until the thing let out a deep growl that rattled my heart almost to a stop. My friends chose flight faster than I did, and my door closed. My barrier, my safety, was cut off to me in that instant. I was too afraid to be upset in that moment as panic coiled around my being. In that instant, the loom was illuminated. Behind me, my father had awoken to my screams and opened my door. "What's the matter?" he asked in a panic. All I could do was point to the dark bedroom. His panic turning to confusion, looking at me, pointing dumbly up at the room that was totally silent. "What, kid? Use your words," he shouted at me, now irritated. There's a monster in there." Realizing how completely ridiculous I sounded, I wanted to be an adult, but I was just a scared kid. Maybe I didn't say anything. It was a trick of the light until the sounds started again. The aging mattress coils made a sound as it was being unburdened by the weight it was holding. The grinding that sounded like dead wood being rubbed together and a low growl. The door made a tiny squeak as the head of the beast slowly pushed it open. The half-skeleton, half-rotting werewolf nudged its head out of the room, its hollow eye sockets digging into me, its sharp teeth promising me a gory death. My dad's hands lifted me up, hugged me to his chest, and bolted me down the stairs. Behind us, the beast let out a terrifying howl and began to pursue us down the stairs. My father tried ripping open the front door to escape, only for the door to be firmly latched with a security chain. My father simply saying, "Fuck, fuck, fuck," as he attempted to open the door with just brute strength, slamming it and ripping it open again only a few inches as the chain held firm for at least 3 tries. We were only seconds ahead of the thing, and this escape route had to be abandoned. As we barreled through the family room and into the moonlit kitchen, the thing caught up to us. There were only a table and some chairs between us, and I thought we were done for. The thing stood up on its hind legs and dropped its weight down on the table with a thud. It stretched its neck out and roared/screamed into our faces. Its black eye sockets level with me in my father's arms, like it was reprimanding me in particular. Its breath was hot and smelled like moss, old leaves, and decay. In that moment, my father reached behind him with his free hand into the sink, the dirty dishes clanging inside the metal tub as he grasped the hilt of his favorite kitchen knife. He rose it above his head and brought it down into the beast's eye socket. My dad's hand coming down full force, keeping the momentum as the knife stuck. His hand slipped off the handle and onto the blade, half the animal's head now covered in my father's blood. The knife managed to lodge into the ancient skull, and there was a cracking sound. Its head twitched like a bad stop-motion animation, and its bones creaked with the sudden, quick movements. It was still for a second and then seemed to come back. It tilted its head like a confused dog and growled. My dad darted for the back door. He shouldered through it, but the thing was too big and moved much faster than us. The monster clawed his back, and he began to fall. As he did, he tossed me into the air in terror, screaming, "Run!" I stumbled to my feet, my momentum almost taking me as my legs caught up to my body. I looked back as my dad turned to face the thing. It ran right past him, straight for me. Feeling that this thing had a vendetta against me seemed more and more likely. Maybe it was mad I woke it up. Maybe it simply wanted to remain unseen and unknown. And there I was, creeping around, trying to see it. I was filled with terror and regret. I should have left it alone, and now I was going to die. I didn't want to leave my dad alone. I didn't want to die before I had even begun to live. My dad had turned to face the beast, only for it to plow past him, and he instinctively grabbed its back legs to stop it from catching and devouring me. How he was able to hold onto the thing was beyond me. Even with it being essentially a skeleton, it was still huge. Its bones like tree trunks, it easily outweighed him. I was able to stay ahead of it as my father wrestled and struggled with it, clinging to the thing like a parasite, his hands ripping into what was left of its rotten, filthy hide. Its insides began to spill out as he ripped out handfuls of mush out of its chest cavity. It didn't have a smell before, but now it smelled like putrid mud and rotten meat. Its brown and black, slimy inside smacked onto the patio. My dad kept ripping, the thing kept pursuing. Now, at a slower pace, the thing was getting fed up with my father. I think it realized that it would need to dispatch my father before it got to me. It turned its head and its teeth on him. My dad was all I had. I was all he had. I was about to watch the only person who cared about me get ripped apart by some supernatural monstrosity. The thing faced my dad. It opened its jaws and let out a deep snarl. My father shoved his fist through the beast's empty eye socket. The thing went silent and still, frozen. My dad seemed just as shocked. He slowly removed his hands from the skull, and he was clutching an old jar wrapped in twine and covered in a messy, bloody membrane. The jar was leaking a black sludge. It had been chipped by my father's knife. In disgust, my dad threw the jar, and it broke open, the liquid inside making a sizzling, popping sound as it was exposed to the air and the concrete. The beast, in turn, began to ooze and melt. As it did, human screams escaped its body. It sounded like thousands of screams. Men, women, children. It could have been hell itself opening up. I had an inkling the screams I heard were the souls this thing had collected in the years hunting. All the people it killed finally being released from their unique place in hell. The thing melted, becoming nothing but a repulsive stain on our patio. Why it was focused solely on me is an unknown. It hadn't gone after my friends, who never spoke to me again. It only went after my dad when he was in its way. It wanted me for its collection, and my dad had simply gotten lucky in stopping it. And that's it.
Damn, that was good. That was I like that one a lot. Like it's but it's so crazy like you said, like the different twists that you and I both had on it just on the artwork. I was like, "Ooh," and it's it's so funny too, because I feel like it definitely, the two stories too definitely shows how different our personalities are.
For
How,
sure.
like, because mine was almost like just straight up like adventure in like the 1800s, like fucking like Vikings, sailors and stuff, and then like yours, and so I feel like mine, I almost turned it into like a nighttime story that you'd read to like a child, and then and then listening to yours, I'm like, ooh, this sounds like a freaking thriller, like an adult, like like an adult thriller book. Like you're like, oh yeah,
Uh, yeah.
this is some good, and it's yeah, I loved it. I really did.
Yeah, I wanted to leave like I didn't say like the gender of the child or the child's name that way like people could see themselves in the
Mm-hmm.
child, you know? So it's like kind of ambiguous. Is that a son or a daughter? I'm pretty sure I left it um ambiguous because like I didn't even give a gender to the children. So
Yeah, no, and it's so funny because like honestly, I didn't even catch on that. Like at least in my head, I made it as like a little, I made it as a little boy, just, but yeah, no, it's so yeah, no, I like it. This is definitely going to be a good one. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
and if there's anything you want to add, put it in the comments because we want to read other people's stories too. So if you got anything to say, let us know. Goodbye.